Sherlock Holmes represents one of the mainstays of detective literature, and inevitably has been since the birth of TV one of the figures most represented and reinterpreted from Arthur Conan Doyle's novels. The analysis will focus on the character invented by Conan Doyle and recent TV and film transpositions, the TV series Sherlock and Guy Ritchie's two films. Starting with the original Sherlock Holmes of the stories, it will suffice to say that he is first and foremost a gentleman. His temperament is extremely calm, with an attitude that is almost never rude, though decidedly resolute. In fact, Sherlock Holmes cannot be described as a man of action. He will never do anything that is out of the plan or that he has not planned. Not surprisingly, it's almost impossible to find in the many tales devoted to him a single episode of combat. Physical confrontation is decidedly out of his style, as is the use of firearms. Sherlock is a man who loves to think, to experiment with chemistry, to invent drugs or tools useful to his work, and not least to find ever more innovative disguises to allow him to blend in when necessary. However, as defined by Watson, he is ignorant in matters of politics, astronomy, and general culture. He hates not being understood, but then only to the trusty Dr. Watson will he want to impart notions of deduction that come naturally to him. Also worth mentioning his relationship with women. Holmes seems apathetic about it. He is impressed and fascinated only by one woman, she whom he refers to as the woman, Irene Adler. However, his interest seems to arise more from the fact that she is the only case he has failed to solve, rather than from pure natural attraction. His nemesis, on the other hand, is unquestionably Moriarty, a character who appears only in the short story The Last Adventure, and who apparently causes Sherlock Holmes' death. He is described by Sherlock as the Napoleon of crime, and his plots confirm this. Moriarty provides an excellent link to the other Sherlock Holmes, who is the subject of this comparison, namely that of the very successful TV series Sherlock. It has the distinction of placing the protagonist, Benedict Cumberbatch, and the trusty Dr. Watson, Martin Freeman, in the London of the 2000s, and not in the second half of the 19th century. An innovative and well-conceived choice, however, that does not affect the essence of the character. The contemporary Sherlock has technological tools on his side that help him in even more complex cases than those that appeared in the books, creating a kind of compensation from this point of view. Even in the series, Moriarty is Sherlock's nemesis. Somehow he is involved in Holmes' alleged death, and his genius is being used for the crime. However, the Moriarty of the TV series, in addition to being very young, is completely insane. Rather than a Napoleon of crime, he seems a madman with delusions of grandeur, in some cases terrifying with his frivolous irony. He seems more interested in his personal duel with Sherlock than in the accomplishment of his business. On the other hand, Sherlock is sociopathic, as well as often cranky and seemingly uninterested in women, over whom he nevertheless exerts a certain charm that he cannot manage. It, therefore, this latter aspect of Holmes' character is shared with the books, while his description as a gentleman is ignored. On the other hand, it should be emphasized how faithful is the transposition of the experiments and the little aptitude for physical confrontation. The not putting up with those who do not understand him is taken to extremes, often resulting in rudeness, which does not belong to the Sherlock of the books. While it's definitely interesting how the deductive ability with words flowing on the screen as he thinks, through which he leaves other characters and viewers speechless, is rendered, very respectful of the paper version. Unfortunately, however, the theme of disguise is totally absent. Also, a mention of the relationship with his brother Mycroft, defined in the books as being smarter than Sherlock but lazier. In this series, there seems to be a psychological disagreement between the two brothers, almost a love-hate and deep rivalry. He plays a very important role in the series, while in the books he appears only twice, showing off his ill temper of human beings other than himself and his brother. Finally, it's only fitting to mention the performance of Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law as Watson in the two films called Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Holmes Shadow Game. The Sherlock exhibits atypical characteristics. He cannot be called a gentleman, but he does not seem rude to such an extent that he makes others weighed down by their lesser intelligence. He reflects a lot, but less than the previous two cases. This leads him to be a character devoted to action, to constant physical confrontation, as well as to the use of weapons. He doesn't seem all indifferent to women. He has an affair with the thief Irene Adler, which makes him more easygoing than both the paper version and Cumberbatch. Again, unlike them, this Holmes is funny. He cracks jokes, creates and gets into absurd situations that bring more than a smile to the viewer's face. The deductive aspect is very well rendered, but bare and direct, like that of the books, without the original invention already mentioned in the TV series. The theme of experiments is strongly respected in the films, particularly on Watson's dog, treated as in the books, but especially that of disguise, absent however in the TV series. Inevitable is the importance of the figure of Moriarty, in this case very faithful to the books. The Napoleon of crime is a middle-aged man, professor of mathematics, perfidious, who has important contacts in the war business and whose sole interest is to speculate on the war. He is strongly annoyed by Holmes' work, which often gets in his way, until the final confrontation in which his brilliance is somewhat diminished by seeing how the detective manages to frame him. However, he is not crazy, and his life is about business, not dualism with Holmes. Personally, this is the Moriarty described in the books, not the one in the TV series. Moreover, Mycroft is faithfully described in relation to the books, given his non-fundamental role and especially the way he experiences his relationship with his brother. Competition in deduction, but nothing more, that results in clashes of psychological family dynamics. With a wide and encompassing look, one realizes that the Sherlock of Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr. complement each other, creating together and united, almost completely, the Sherlock Holmes created by Arthur Conan Doyle. This means that the character has by no means been completely denaturalized or dismembered, but has retained in the individual interpretations that charm and fascination associated with the gentlemanly Sherlock Holmes.